Hey everybody, this is Melissa Clothier again, the Right Doctor, here with Nikki Haley, who is a congresswoman right now, right?
In the State House.
In the State House,
Representative.
representative. Okay, so I'm here with Representative Nikki Haley, soon to be Governor Nikki Haley, and well, welcome to Texas first off.
Thank you.
I
It's
am
a pleasure
Texas
to be
resident.
here. Oh, it's a great state.
It is a great state. So you are one of the kind of new movement people who are taking over politics, and specifically a woman who's kind of cleaning things up. And why do you think now is the year? Why do you think this is the year that so much transformation is happening in the political process generally?
I think a couple of years ago, people were angry but complacent. Now they're angry and they want to do something about it. I think people have found the power of their voice. I think they suddenly realize that this is not about complaining about it. This is about doing something about it. And I think there's a real opportunity to change our states and our country with this movement. And I did that in South Carolina. I basically said, if you believe that government should be accountable to the people it serves, if you believe that government should know the value of a dollar, and if you think jobs in the economy should come first, join our movement. And always ended it by saying, and if you like what I have to say, go tell 10 people. And they did. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing the grassroots network that just developed from that. But what I have also said is, don't ever let this movement be about a person. Don't let it be about an election. It's about what we do in January. It's about how we move government so that it gets back to where it's working for the people again. And we go back to knowing the value of a dollar. So I think we are seeing, as we lose faith in Congress, we are going to see good, strong, conservative governors step up and take our states back and really show D.C. what good government looks like.
Well, it's something you're bringing up a point that Governor Perry was talking about with the 10th Amendment and the states reasserting their rights. How do you see that manifesting? Because I don't know if this is unprecedented in history, but it's certainly something that has grabbed my attention. I don't think there's ever been so many lawsuits by states against the federal government, and then the federal government countersuing states. It really seems to be like kind of an unspoken war against their own people.
Well, and let's remember, I mean, this all goes back to our founding fathers. Our founding fathers said it should be families first, then communities, then states, then federal. We have watched our country turn totally upside down. Mm-hmm. It is about states' rights. It is about keeping back the federal intrusion. And the more the federal government starts to intrude in our states, whether it's through health care mandates, whether it's through fighting our illegal immigration laws, whether it's pushing through bailouts and stimulus packages that we don't want, you're going to see states really say, stop. This is not your place. This is not what our founding fathers thought we should do, and we're going to fight back. And I think what you're going to see across the country is a group of governors that are freedom fighters, that are states' rights advocates, and we're going to make sure that not only do we talk about it, but that we really do what we say we're going to do and fight for the people that we serve.
This seems kind of new to me. I mean, in the election cycle before, you didn't hear governors talking about states' rights. But now even the most liberal governors, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, is kind of, there's certain things that sounded good in theory, like Obamacare, but aren't seeming so great in reality.
I think people are suddenly realizing that, government intrusion is not a good thing, that government was not intended to be all things to all people. And when you suddenly have a health care mandate that's going to cost each individual $700 if they don't participate, or 2% of their income, whichever is greater, I mean, you have hit the wallets and the pocketbooks of the people that are hurting right now. Yeah. And you've basically said, this is how we're going to make you have your health care. And that's not what we should be doing. When you go and say Arizona can't protect itself from illegal immigration, you have just interfered with a state trying to protect its citizens. When you are sending stimulus dollars down and telling them what to spend and how to spend it, you have just gotten into the budgets of states when they have asked you not to. So this is really a fight between the states and the federal government, and it's a fight that we can't afford to lose, because the great thing about this country is that we do have states' rights. The great thing about the country is that the governor and the legislatures of those states protect those people and allow that to work to the citizens of that state. When the federal government thinks they know more than the people of our states, we're in trouble.
So what has happened in a lot of different states is the Republican establishment has been kind of surprised by the Nikki Haleys and the Sharon Angles and the Joe Millers, and on and on and on. There's like surprise after surprise after surprise. Now, those of us who are in the grassroots are not surprised. We kind of knew this was coming along. What do you think the disconnect has been, and why do you think there's been such a fight against the grassroots, or that's how it's perceived?
I think it was the arrogance of government. I think elected officials thought that they could continue doing what they wanted to do with the power that they had. What they didn't realize was that the real power was in the voices of the people. And the people suddenly started to use those voices. And I have said, as I go across my state and as we see across the country, I've never seen elected officials so scared. It's a beautiful thing. It's the way it's supposed to be. We need to make sure it stays that way. We have a real opportunity to where people can take their states back, where elected officials can remember who it is that they work for and really get good government back in our states. Can't stop until we get it. This is not about re-elections anymore. This is about fighting for the people, getting them the value of a dollar, and making sure we don't stop until we go back to the basics.
Okay, one thing I've noticed is that conservative politicians generally get attacked more. Okay, it just goes. In fact, when I was talking to Governor Perry, he was saying that the press it's been brutal and personal.
Yes.
Now, here's a man who's been in public office for 16 years. There's not secrets anymore. It's just you know him, and so but yet attacking his family, and the attacks on you. I thought I'd seen it all with Governor Palin. The attacks on you, I still it's just I was so personally offended as a woman, and not surprised because as a female blogger in the conservative movement, nothing is off limits and everything is said. But it's a whole nother thing going after you, a public figure, and then your family has drug through it. It's horrendous. Why do you think women in particular are so focused on in this way? What is the underneath it? Is it the good old boy network there?
Rather than focusing on what happened, I want your readership to really focus on what the result was, which was people stepped above it. People said, we're not going there. People said, we're going to focus on the issues. We are not going to be drugged down into this. And my job was to stay on focus, stay on message, so that I didn't have them go through all of that. And what I hope that the people will continue to see is when you rise above it, you force those elected officials, you force that bad politics to stay out of the way. South Carolina learned a real lesson there, which is we're going to talk about issues. We're not going to bring in distractions, which is what that was. Politics is the art of distraction. But I wasn't going to allow any negative distractions in. We knew what was going to happen. I mean, we were the last person in a 4-person race. We didn't have any money to poll, but the second that the public poll came out and showed that we were double digits above everybody else, I looked at my husband, we celebrated for 5 minutes, and I said, this is going to hurt. Yeah. And so what I want people to understand is I stood strong and stayed focused. They rose above it. Let's do that every time. Not focus on why it happens, but focus on what we do when it does happen.
Well, I mean, I've talked to other women who'd probably be very good in politics, but they're like, there's no way I would drag my family through it. And I think that is the purpose. And I'll just say that because I'm a blogger and I can say what I want. But it seems to me the hope is, and whether it's from the feminists or from the liberal media or from even the good old boy network, they want the women to sit down and shut up and not participate. And it's not happening. Most of the leaders, like of the Tea Party movement, are women, the ones running the tea parties. And it's been a really great way for them to find their voice. And it's encouraging that how you handled it, because we need more good people running in politics.
And I need them to understand that I did this for all of us. The way I stood through and the way I continued on was because if I didn't do it, no one else would. And I wanted them to know that I was a survivor and that we could. And it's but it's not the election we need to focus on, it's what I'm going to do in January. And so we do need women involved. We need good conservatives involved, whether it's men, whether it's women. We need to get good conservatives back in government. I have said that in South Carolina, we've got a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and a Republican governor. That's not good enough. I want a conservative House, a conservative Senate, and a conservative governor. And we need to make sure we do whatever it takes, no matter how bad the bruises are, to get us there, because I do think it'll change our country.
South Carolina in particular has, if I remember correctly, and I am going back through the Wayback Machine, which is not very trusty. I've got 3 kids. It's like each successive kid, I'm swear, my short-term memory's just gone. Anyway, the unemployment rate has been a challenge there, has it not?
11%.
Yes. And so what do you think can be done to reverse that trend?
You know, we've got to go back and look at comprehensive tax reform. We've got to look at every single tax, every single fee, and every single exemption. I'm going to propose comprehensive tax reform in South Carolina. The first thing we're going to do is eliminate the small business income tax, because when you give businesses cash flow, when you give them profit margins, the first thing they do is hire people. They invest back into their state. That's 2% of our budget. If we do that, we're already a right-to-work state. We keep the unions out. If we suddenly become a no corporate income tax state, we will be a magnet for companies across the country and internationally that want to come to South Carolina. The goal is to make sure that we have a 10-year business plan, and no matter what we do, if it doesn't create jobs, we don't do it, and stay on focus and not allow the politics to distract us, not allow anything to get us off focus. But the goal is to reduce that 11% unemployment through making sure that we have a good tax structure, to making sure that we have a strong infrastructure, and to make sure that we have the skilled workforce we need so that we can keep bringing in good quality companies.
Well, thank you very much for your time today. It's a pleasure to meet you, and it's very encouraging to know that there's politicians like you out there who are fighting the good fight.
Well, you're fighting the good fight, so thank you for what you do, and keep spreading the word.
All right, thank you very much.